measures in response to the findings of the performance review of the directors. Advise Richard Kitty on 5 measures. Now, the advice I'm going to give here will be based on the following 5 points. The first one is in relation to board diversity. The second advice will be based on board induction. The third one will be on the basis of length of service of non-executive directors. The fourth advice will be based on directors' competence. Then lastly, the board meeting agenda. The board meeting agenda. Candidates were supposed to advise Kitty on 5 measures he might consider in response to the findings of the performance review of the directors. We've read the issues raised by the non-executive directors. There are 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Then there was also an issue raised by the CEO. Board diversity. Now, the board diversity means having a range of many people that are different. That's the meaning of diversity. Diversity means having a range of many people that are different from each other. That's the meaning of diversity. So board diversity would then mean or entails, board diversity will entail skills, expertise, experience, gender, ethnicity, age, independence, and geography of the board members. And board diversity is an essential driver of board effectiveness. The most important objective for any effort to increase diversity should be to have a diversity of perspectives on the board and broadening the representation in terms of gender and ethnicity. Okay? So, we are to advise this company. Why board diversity? Because we read the second paragraph that the board consists of 8 directors comprising the chairman, the executive directors, and 5 independent and executive directors. Among the directors of the board, only 1 is a female. So there should be inclusion of more women on this board, because we know that women on a board often take a more inquisitive approach, which in turn can empower the male members of the board to do the same, thereby increasing the overall board effectiveness. Women are not just inquisitive, but they can also have what we call sharp intuition. So I would advise the chairman to include more women on this board, because this board only has 1 woman. Then there's a question of induction, board induction. The board should establish a formal induction program so that that program can be used to familiarize incoming directors with the company's operations, the company's business environment, together with sustainability issues relevant to the business. The induction program should also help introduce these new members to the members of the senior management team, and also the induction program should introduce the members to their respective duties and responsibilities. Why do I say so? Because the second non-executive director complained in the third paragraph to the auditors that she did not receive enough support from the company when she was appointed. So that is a measure that has to be taken. Board induction. There has to be a board induction program in place. Then moving on to the length of service, point number 3, length of service of non-executive directors. Now, in the second last paragraph, we read that a fourth non-executive director who was the chairman of the audit committee has been a board member for 10 years. He had just finished the first year of a renewed 3-year contract, subject to annual re-election by the shareholders. Now, when it comes to the length of service of non-executive director, in this case, the board, Sigamanya Limited board, will need to justify why they have a non-executive director as a board member beyond 9 years. Because any term beyond 9 years, and that would mean a three terms. Those are 3 years, 3 years, 3 years, 3 terms. The 3-3-3-year terms for an independent non-executive director should be subject to a particularly rigorous review by the board. And not just on the performance of the director, no, but also the factors that may impair his or her independence at that time. And the review should also take into account the need for refreshing the board. Could there be need to have fresh blood, or should the director's term be renewed? Now, it should be noted that an independent non-executive directors may serve longer than 9 years, but that should only happen after an independence assessment by the board. And it should be established that there are no relationships or circumstances likely to affect, or circumstances that are appearing to affect the director's judgment. And that assessment candidates should show that the independent director's independence of character and judgment is not in any way affected or impaired by the length of service. So that is one matter that has to be considered when it comes to the length of services, particularly for this director who has been a board member for 10 years. Then the next point is on directors' competence. Directors' competence. Now, directors are expected to be individuals of integrity, individuals that are courageous, and individuals that have relevant knowledge, skills, and experience so that they can bring judgment to bear on the business of the company. Now, in situations where directors may lack competence or experience, there has to be detailed induction and formal mentoring and support programs to help them increase their competence. And when it comes to matters of directors' competence, the board's nomination committee plays a very vital role in helping the directors increase their competence. Then another measure is board's meeting agenda. Board's meeting agenda. In the third last paragraph, we read that a third NED was accused by colleagues for failing to contribute adequately to discussions in board meetings. He was an ex-government minister who had some useful political connections which might benefit the company. And candidate, that point is in relation to competence. Okay, that complaint was in relation to this director's competence. He was not competent enough. We read that he was accused failing to contribute adequately to discussions because he didn't have knowledge, he didn't have skills, he didn't have experience. So that one we've discussed, director's competence. This director was not competent enough to sit on that board, although he had political connections which might benefit the company. So his competence was in question. But I'm now on the issue of board meeting agenda. All right? That is the fourth last paragraph reads that another NED was accused by fellow directors of wasting time at board meetings and committee meetings by talking too long. It was also argued that he was not preparing adequately by reading the board's papers before commencement of the meetings. Now, that is a question of board meeting agenda. The chairman of the board, together with the CEO and the company secretary, should formulate the yearly work plan for the board against agreed objectives, and they should play an active part in the setting of the agenda of the board meetings. The chairman, furthermore, should preside over the board meetings and ensure that time in meetings is used productively. The chairman should encourage what we call collegiality. Collegiality. This is just cooperation within team members, okay? You should encourage collegiality among board members without inhibiting candid debate and without creating tension among board members. You also read something about board papers being not, this member not reading board papers before the meeting. The board papers should be made available to board members not less than 10 days before the date for meetings. That is a measure that can be taken in response to the request of the chief finance, not to the chief finance, but measure that should be considered in response to the findings of the performance review of the directors of Sigamanya Limited in order to improve board effectiveness. To improve board effectiveness, these matters must be considered: board diversity, board induction, length of service of non-executive directors, directors' competence, and board meeting agenda. Let's answer part C, which reads, as the company secretary of Sigamanya, discuss how you would respond to the request of the chief executive officer for an appointment to the board.
No internet is required to study. You can actually download all content at once, prepare your own timetable, and study at your own pace. The video lectures are laced with study techniques and exam tips. Lectures are carefully selected from distinguished institutions of learning like Strathmore, KCA, UON, TUC, among others.
That we are transmitting.
Offering learning materials is our core business. For the last 15 years, we have diligently and consistently provided support for students. Leverage on our experience to boost your chances of passing the impending CASNEP exams. Download pre-recorded CASNEP video lectures at www.manifestedpublishers.com and study offline. For more inquiries, call 0724 173 845.